There are places on this earth where the horizon doesn't just glow, it speaks. Sedona is one of them. Here, the first breath of sunrise doesn't simply cast light upon the rocks, it awakens them. A quiet pulse rises from the red earth, as if the land itself is stretching after 1,000 years of dreaming, whispering old stories through the canyon wind. Long before roads carved their way into this valley, long before a town carried the name Sedona, ancient peoples walked these cliffs believing the stones were alive and listening. They said the rocks could remember. That each towering curve, each impossible spire, held the echo of spirits older than time. And when the sun strikes them just right, you can almost feel that memory, a low hum beneath your feet, a warmth in the air that doesn't belong to weather, a presence lingering just beyond what the eyes can see. Some call it energy, some call it mystery, others call it a doorway. Whatever it is, it has drawn wanderers, seekers, mystics, and skeptics for centuries. Because Sedona is not merely a place you arrive at. It is a place that seems to arrive within you, quietly, powerfully, as if the land itself is studying your heartbeat. So as we begin this journey together, breathe in deeply. Let the red stone dust settle around you. Let the morning light guide your curiosity. For in Sedona, Arizona, the earth does more than shine. It breathes. And if you listen closely, it just might speak to you too. Before the modern world named these canyons, before the word Arizona ever existed, there were the Sinagua. A quiet, resilient people who carved their lives into the stone, tucking their homes high into the cliffs like secret watchtowers suspended between earth and sky. To walk where they once walked is to feel a presence, not haunting, but watchful, as if the walls themselves remember each footstep, each fire, each prayer whispered into the open desert air. To the Sinagua, this land was more than shelter. It was sacred geometry. A natural cathedral built by the elements, where every spire, every butte, every winding canyon carried meaning. They believed the towering formations were guardians, stone spirits frozen mid-rise, holding ancient power in their shapes. Bellrock, the resonator. A place where the earth's frequency seemed to vibrate through the body like a quiet drum. Cathedral Rock, the keeper of balance. A gateway between this world and the world of the unseen. Courthouse Butte, the sentinel. Standing firm against time, shadowing the valley with a silent authority. To outsiders, these are landmarks. But to those who lived here first, they were living beings, part of a sacred landscape that breathed, listened, and answered. And scattered across the canyon walls, etched into desert varnish, lie the petroglyphs, mysterious symbols shaped by hands centuries gone. Spirals, figures, stars, paths leading nowhere and everywhere at once. No one today can say with certainty what they mean. Are they messages, maps, warnings, or perhaps stories meant for spirits rather than people? Staring at them is like staring into a doorway half open, inviting but unclear. A deliberate puzzle left by those who understood this land far more deeply than we ever will. To the ancient tribes, Sedona was not a site. It was a portal. A meeting place of energy and spirit, where the physical world thinned just enough to let something else shimmer through. A place where visions came unbidden, where silence held answers, and where the thin veil between realms felt breakable with a single breath. In their world, the land was alive. In Sedona, it still feels that way. After centuries of silence and spirit, the rhythm of Sedona began to change. In the late 1800s, new footsteps echoed through the canyon, quieter than the thunder of legends, but determined. Ranchers, farmers, dream chasers. People drawn not just by opportunity, but by something they couldn't quite explain. Many of them wrote in journals that the valley felt different, though they lacked the old words to describe why. They came with wagons, livestock, and the fragile hope that the soil beneath the red cliffs could sustain a life. And somehow, it did. Among these early settlers was a woman whose name would outlast time, Sedona Arabella Miller Schneble. A kind, soft-spoken pioneer whose hospitality was so widely admired that the small, struggling community insisted the town bear her name. It was a rare honor, not for conquest or wealth, but for compassion. And in a land so daunting, that compassion mattered. Life here was harsh. The summers blistered. The winters could bite through leather. Water had to be coaxed from stubborn earth. Ranchers fought droughts, floods, isolation, and the quiet eeriness of nights where the rocks glowed under moonlight like ancient sentinels watching over their work. Some settlers spoke of hearing whispers carried on the wind, strange lights weaving between the cliffs, or sudden stillness that felt like an unseen presence observing them. They didn't talk about it often, not wanting their neighbors to question their sanity, but the stories lingered. Yet through hardship, a community took root. Irrigation ditches cut through desert clay. Cabins rose from the dust. Neighbors helped neighbors survive. And gradually, the wild red valley began to feel like home. Still, even as fences, orchards, and schoolhouses appeared, nothing disrupted the land's deeper pulse. Settlers lived within Sedona, but they did not conquer it. They adapted, they respected. And perhaps, without fully realizing it, they became part of the valley's ongoing story. Another chapter in a place where history and mystery have always walked hand in hand. Because even then, people sensed what the Sinagua already knew. Sedona was never just a place to live. It was a place that lived with you. By the early 20th century, the quiet pulse of Sedona began to ripple far beyond its red rock walls. Hollywood had discovered a landscape unlike any other, a place where sunlight burned gold against sandstone cliffs, where shadows carved their own stories, and where the horizon stretched endlessly, daring imagination to keep up. The first film crews arrived with cameras, horses, and scripts that seemed almost humble compared to the grandeur of the land itself. Westerns, full of dust, gunpowder, and untamed freedom, found a natural home here. Sedona's rocks became silent actors, towering, steadfast, commanding attention without a single word. Stars walked these trails, cowboys and pioneers, villains and lawmen, faces that would become legends. Some said the cliffs seemed to lean closer, as if curious, watching the newcomers tread the same paths as the ancient Sinagua. Others whispered that the land itself inspired performances, whispering courage into actors' hearts and lending mystery to every scene. It was a strange, magical collision, the rawness of the desert meeting the dreams of filmmakers. And even as scripts were read and cameras rolled, Sedona kept its secrets. It didn't give itself fully to anyone, not even to the world of cinema. This was a town being noticed, admired, captured on film, yet still resisting full understanding. The silver screen drew crowds, tourists, dreamers, but the energy that had existed for centuries remained intact. The rocks still hummed, the canyons still held their quiet whispers. Hollywood may have put Sedona on the map, but it did not define it. Sedona defined itself. A place where legend and reality brushed shoulders, where storytelling was carved not just into scripts, but into the very land. And as the cameras left, as the stars returned to the cities and the dust settled back into the desert, Sedona waited. Patient, eternal, and quietly alive. Because in this valley, history was not only remembered, it was felt. Beneath Sedona's sun-scorched cliffs and towering red rocks, there is a secret that draws people from every corner of the world. They do not come for the trails alone, nor for the films that once painted these canyons. They come because of the vortexes, invisible spirals of energy that seem to pulse from the very heart of the earth. Some say a vortex is a swirl of spiritual force, a place where the veil between worlds is thin. Others call it magnetism, energy, or a natural alignment of the Earth's energy grid. Science cannot fully explain it, though many have tried. And yet, anyone who steps into these sacred spots knows something is different. The air feels charged, thoughts sharpen, hearts slow, then quicken. A subtle hum resonates under the skin, like the land itself is breathing. There are 4 main vortexes in Sedona, each with its own character. Airport Mesa, where the earth seems to rise beneath your feet, drawing you upward, as if urging you to see the world from a higher perspective. Bell Rock, a steady, grounding force. Standing here, many say they feel rooted, connected, as if the land itself is anchoring their soul. Cathedral Rock, a place of balance, where energies collide and converge. Some report visions here, sudden clarity, or a strange serenity that washes over them like sunlight through stained glass. Boynton Canyon, a quiet, introspective vortex, whispered to bring insight and reflection, where the canyon walls themselves seem to listen to your thoughts. Skeptics arrive, notebooks in hand, ready to debunk. But even they often pause, eyes wide, feeling something they cannot name. Pilgrims, seekers, wanderers, and curious tourists alike have walked these paths, each leaving a trace of themselves behind, and taking a whisper of Sedona's energy home. Stories abound. People healed, decisions clarified, inspiration struck. Some speak of encounters with unseen presences, flickers in the corner of the eye, chills along the spine, a quiet voice urging patience, understanding, or simply, awe. And the truth of a vortex is not something you can hold, chart, or capture on film. It is felt, deep in the bones, in the spaces where logic falls silent and mystery begins to speak. Sedona, in this way, remains alive and untamed. It does not yield its secrets easily, but for those willing to pause, to breathe, to simply be, the land opens. And when it does, the world feels wider, older, and infinitely more alive than it ever did before. Because here, among these red rocks and desert winds, the earth is not still. It is moving, it is watching. And it is waiting to remind you of something you may have forgotten: that energy, magic, and wonder are always closer than we think. To walk the trails of Sedona is to step into a living tapestry of stone and sky. Here, the rocks do not merely exist, they command attention, shape the horizon, and whisper their stories to anyone who dares to wander. The paths wind through canyons carved over eons, where sunlight plays upon the red cliffs like fire through stained glass, and shadows stretch long and deliberate, as if pointing toward some hidden truth. Every step carries you deeper into the heart of the land, where nature's artistry feels intentional, sacred, almost sentient. There is Devil's Bridge, soaring above the canyon floor, a natural arch that seems to defy reason. To cross it is to trust in the earth itself, to feel the thrill of risk balanced by the certainty of stone. Standing atop its curve, the valley stretches endlessly, the air humming with history, mystery, and quiet exhilaration. Cathedral Rock rises like a cathedral should, grand, solemn, impossibly tall. Climbing its rugged slopes is not a mere hike, it is a pilgrimage. Here, many pause not out of fatigue, but in reverence, sensing the lingering energies of those who have stood in this place for centuries. Then there is Bell Rock, steadfast and grounding. Hikers speak of a subtle vibration, a rhythm in the soles of their feet, a quiet reminder of the energy flowing beneath the earth. Some walk slowly, hands brushing stone, feeling a pulse they cannot see, but undeniably sense. The West Fork Trail offers a different magic, a canyon of trees, a ribbon of creek water, where sunlight flickers like fireflies through the leaves. Here, the world softens, the desert hush replaced by the gentle murmur of flowing water, the scent of pine and earth rising with every step. Sedona's red rocks are more than landmarks, they are living monuments. Each arch, spire, and butte has its own personality, its own energy, its own story. To hike here is to read the land like a book written in stone, sometimes clear, sometimes cryptic, always stirring the soul. And yet, despite the grandeur, there is intimacy. A quiet trail winding into a hidden canyon, a single arch catching the last rays of sunset, a whisper of wind through the juniper. These are the moments that etch themselves into memory. In Sedona, hiking is not exercise. It is communion. Each step, each breath, each pause is an acknowledgement that you are part of something far larger, a story of stone and sky, of ancient peoples and modern seekers, of energy that cannot be measured, only felt. Here, the land does not merely welcome you. It teaches you. It awakens you. It reminds you that beauty, wonder, and awe are always within reach, if you are willing to step onto the trail and listen. Beyond the cliffs and trails, Sedona's true heartbeat lies in the spaces where people have gathered, created, and sought connection, where stone meets spirit, and tradition meets imagination. Uptown Sedona hums with a quiet vibrancy. Streets lined with galleries, artisan shops, and studios reveal a community that celebrates beauty, craftsmanship, and inspiration. Here, paintbrushes trace the colors of the canyon, clay captures the shapes of the rocks, and jewelry glints with echoes of the desert sun. Every piece seems infused with the energy of the land itself, as if the red rocks themselves had lent a fragment of their soul to the artist's hand. And then there is the spirituality of Sedona, subtle, pervasive, and impossible to ignore. Crystals glimmer in shop windows, tarot cards whisper secrets, and healers offer guidance to those willing to listen. It is not about superstition or showmanship. It is about a search for balance, for clarity, for connection, a continuation of the ancient understanding that this land is sacred, alive, and attentive. Tlaquepaque Arts Village embodies this harmony between earth and human endeavor. Its Spanish-style courtyards, archways, and fountains evoke an older, gentler world. Wanderers here feel a sense of quiet reflection, as if the village itself encourages contemplation and wonder. Art, architecture, and nature converge, creating a space where time slows and the spirit feels free to roam. Locals balance tradition and tourism, weaving their own stories into the city's enduring narrative. Farmers, shopkeepers, artisans, and spiritual guides coexist with hikers, seekers, and wanderers, creating a living tapestry of life, culture, and energy. There is laughter, conversation, music, but always a reverence for the land that surrounds them, a quiet acknowledgement that Sedona is more than home. It is a companion, a guide, a teacher. In Sedona, art is not just decoration. Spirituality is not just belief. Life is not just lived. Everything is interwoven with the land, as if the red rocks themselves pulse through the people who inhabit this place. To stroll the streets, to visit a gallery, to pause before a fountain, is to feel the city's soul, a delicate, vibrant pulse that bridges the ancient and the modern, the earthly and the mystical. Sedona does not simply inspire. It awakens, quietly, persistently, calling each visitor to see, feel, and remember that there is more to the world than what we can touch or measure. Sedona is a place where the extraordinary feels ordinary. Where the wind carries whispers from centuries past, and the night sky often seems alive with secrets. Legends have grown here like the juniper trees clinging to cliff edges. Some speak of spirits lingering along canyon trails, guardians of the land, echoing the voices of the Sinagua, or perhaps travelers who never left. Hikers sometimes report shadows shifting just beyond the corner of their eyes, footsteps echoing when no one walks behind, or sudden chills in the warm desert air, as though the rocks themselves are exhaling stories meant only for those who dare to listen. Then there are the lights, flickering orbs, mysterious illuminations in the night sky, often seen dancing above the red rocks. UFO sightings are whispered among locals and visitors alike, yet no explanation can fully account for them. Many call it high strangeness, a reminder that Sedona does not bend entirely to human understanding. It is a place that keeps some of its magic hidden, deliberately, preserving wonder for those patient enough to notice. Even the land itself seems to play tricks. Pathways that appear longer than memory allows, winds that carry voices, shadows that stretch in impossible ways. And perhaps that is the essence of Sedona. It is a place where the veil between what we know and what we sense is thin, where the impossible feels tangible, and where curiosity is not only encouraged, it is rewarded. To walk here is to be reminded that mystery is not an absence of understanding, but a presence, a pulse that hums beneath our feet and through our veins. Sparkles Section 9, Sunset Reflection and Closing. As the sun dips behind the red cliffs, the canyon glows like embers in a dying fire, warm, deep, and alive. Shadows stretch long, and the air grows still, carrying the scent of juniper and stone. Here, in this quiet, timeless moment, it becomes clear: Sedona is not a destination. It is an experience, a feeling, a conversation with the land that began long before us and will continue long after. Every rock, every trail, every whispering wind is part of a story, part of a living tapestry that blends history, spirit, and imagination. To leave Sedona is not merely to walk away from a place, it is to carry a piece of its pulse within you. So take a deep breath, let the red earth settle beneath your feet, and remember, there are places where the world feels larger, older, more alive than we ever imagined. Sedona is one of them. And once it speaks to you, it is never truly gone.